It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
So banks are very hesitant of giving higher loan amounts on brand new builds, but properties that are fully renovated, that are basically wheel your suitcase in ready to go, those are the ones that seem to be doing quite promising. Like these are the ones that are averaging 7 to 14 days on market.
And that is Aaron Murray in Hobart on the Real Estate Breakfast this morning as we launch into another episode with more property information, connecting you to the largest real estate knowledge bank across Australia. We do it 7 days a week. And just in terms of the content, there is now over 1,250 episodes. So you name it, wherever you are, you'll be able to find some of that real estate information. It is a Tuesday morning, May the 6th. And just a reminder that Eliza Owen from Core Logic is going to be here, and she's going to be asking a bit of a tough and crucial question. Should home values come down? With housing a top issue in the 2025 federal election, which is behind us, both parties were pushing policies to boost ownership, but without tackling supply, demand-driven incentives may push prices higher, deepening the very crisis these policies aim to solve. So we are going to do a little bit of a post-election piece as well that is relating to that. Well, let's welcome into the Real Estate Breakfast this morning Aaron Murray from 414 Property Co. And Aaron is in Hobart. Good morning, Aaron. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning. You're in Hobart. How busy have you been for 2025?
Mate, as you've probably seen, the media loves to hype it up a bit. It's very much so like a roller coaster. Obviously, the media loves to pitch their own stories. It's just everyone has a different opinion at the moment.
Well, let's sort of drill down on Hobart, because predictions for 2025 at the start of the year were indicating potential growth in Hobart's housing market, with a forecast estimating an increase of around 3%, which could add approximately $21,000 to the median house price.
I'm not sure if you guys saw yesterday, there was actually quite a few guys, media sources releasing that our market had produced 2.5% growth over the last quarter. So that's obviously really good news, and it seems to be us that it is on track to looking like a positive outcome.
So what is happening in the space of Hobart's buyer demand right at the moment where we are? Because we're in May, 2025 is rolling forward.
It seems to be like this little rush before the financial year. We've got a few guys that are either both wanting to sell, obviously for tax purposes, and vice versa, people wanting to buy before that bracket comes through. So there does seem to be this quick little bit of demand coming through. I was actually having a coffee this morning with a broker as well, and she's indicated that there seems to be quite a little bit of a backlog with people applying for loans at the moment too. So the banks are getting a little bit busier. And obviously, as the age-old rule of thumb, the more obviously interest, more competition, the higher the medians go.
Now, people are living in the current moment with everything being too expensive. Interest rates, they're slowly coming down, a long way to go, but the cost of living, as we know, is out of control. In fact, meat is so expensive that I, for the very first time in my life, went to the local butcher, where I'm pleased to report I fillet steak $10 a kilo cheaper. So given just how expensive things are and how that is impacting both first home buyers and investors, what is happening at the moment in Hobart in those two marketplaces?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big key component is the affordability aspect, especially with the bank size as well, not allowing people to have this huge borrowing capacity anymore. So like our lower median suburbs seem to be getting a lot more higher traction interest just because there really isn't another choice. So the properties that sort of seem to be doing a little bit better are the ones in the lesser known areas, I suppose, a little bit further out from our CBD than what people were intending to apply for to begin with.
So let me just come back to the first home buyers. What's happening from your perspective? How busy is the first home buyer market in Hobart right now?
I think they make up roughly about 20 to 25% of our market at the moment. So it has gone on a steady little incline, which is really exciting. The Aussie dream of owning a home seems to be quite promising for a few people at the moment.
And similarly, what's happening with the investors?
Over the last few months, I think there's been a little bit more confidence coming back in the marketplace. Again, that speaks to the volume of bank loan inquiries. I think there's a little bit more certainty that they're a little bit more confident to jump into a little bit more debt because they don't have this fear that the interest rates are going to go up anymore.
Now, we always like to identify a suburb that represents some sort of value, much like my newfound local butcher. Is there any standout suburb or pockets of Hobart that offers some sort of value, especially for first home buyers?
Yeah, well, look, I'm a bit of a gambling man. So, look, some of our lower socioeconomic areas, I suppose, the ones that banks will assess a little bit more high risk, to put it politely. I think there's a little bit more high reward for areas like that. There seems to be a lot more when first home buyers do move out to these areas, the reputation does change quite quickly. And once that happens, obviously the medians do escalate very, very rapidly as well. So if I was a gambling man, I'd probably be heading out towards your Gagebrook, your Herdsman's Cove, Bridgewater areas just to try and snap something up before that reputation changes over the next, hopefully over the next couple of years.
Now, if you're listening to us this morning and you might be in Hobart or you might be in Launceston or somewhere else in Tasmania and you're thinking that perhaps now is the best time to list with the elections out of the way behind us, what sort of advice would you give to any sellers in Tasmania, especially in Hobart in the current market?
Yeah, absolutely. So there seems to be a little bit of compromise going on in the sense of banks are assessing brand new builds, quite a high risk category. I'm sure everyone's seen over the last couple of years that a lot of builders have been going under and obviously material costs is based on an all-time high. So banks are very hesitant of giving higher loan amounts on brand new builds. But properties that are fully renovated, that are basically wheel your suitcase in ready to go, those are the ones that seem to be doing quite promising. Like these are the ones that are averaging 7 to 14 days on market. So if I was looking at selling a property at the moment, I would probably smash out one of those renovations or two. If the kitchen needs that little touch up or the lick of paint throughout, that would definitely be where I'd be investing my money.
And just coming back to the new stock that you're talking about, what sort of new stock in and around Hobart in the last few months have you been sort of dealing with, and how long is it taking to move that new stock from developers?
Yeah, for sure. It sort of varies a little bit. Again, obviously depending on the property type itself, but the ones I was just mentioning, if you are ready to rock and roll, that 7 to 14 day bracket is quite achievable. The ones that do need that little bit of work, that's basically something that's preventing someone from moving in straight away, if it's new carpets, new paint, whatever it might be, they're the ones that are taking sort of nearly double, so getting closer to that 30-day period.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, Aaron. Good luck for the rest of 2025. Still plenty left in the tank, as we say. Hobart, of course, there's all sorts of, I guess, those interstaters that have been for some time moving down, buying. I'm not sure what that's actually doing right at the moment, but we'll leave that for another time. And thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
No worries. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and letting me come on board. I've been a long time listener for a little while, so it's nice to be able to come on board.
Don't forget to subscribe. We have so many episodes, all designed to help you better understand the constantly evolving and dynamically changing real estate property market.
Well, I want to come back to the negative equity, which is a real jail sentence for these first home buyers, completely trapped with having to pay their mortgages. As I said, they can't live in their properties, the amount of time for resolution. Now, this can be the difference between having a breakdown and not having a breakdown with the internal stress that people are under. Now, often this happens to younger people, as we've mentioned, with young children. Their world absolutely changes within this flash flooding event. How much of that have you actually seen, just in terms of the stress load?
One of the heartbreaking things to have witnessed over the last 2 years has been seeing people under incredible emotional, financial and mental stress. we would hear countless stories of people who, anytime it looked like it was going to rain, had their go bag ready to go with life jackets ready to go. We would hear stories of families, first-home buyers, young family in the local school, they're invested in the local community, having to move out of that community, and then all of the financial stresses and loads on top of that. I mean, one of the things that people had is they were paying rates on properties they couldn't live in. So one of the things we advocated for was, well, if they can't live on these properties, they shouldn't be paying rates. So we advocated for that and we got rates relief. This is one of the unseen tolls that this has, that these ever-increasing weather events are having on people, is the emotional toll, the mental toll that isn't just for the lifetime of the event, but it continues. I mean, just recently we had the 2-year anniversary of the flood. And for me, I'm out of the situation. My family and I were able to get out of our flooded home and move into another home. But it brought up a whole lot of memories that I thought were long buried. And I think my experience is like many that have been impacted by weather events. It is more than the event itself. It leaves its mark for years to come.
Navigate the world of real estate like a pro, with expert insights, opinions and trends to up your game and knowledge when buying your next property.
And right now it is time for another property tip, and we are going into Victoria. Recently we spoke to Anthony Webb from Bell Property. You've got a property tip here. It's all about, I guess, doing the due diligence on property.
Oh, I think it really is. One of the things I advise a lot of buyers to do is when they're buying a property in a suburb, don't just choose a suburb, really get to know that suburb. Everyone knows that there's good parts of suburbs, bad parts of suburbs, but I think when people are doing their searches online, they don't really know where those good and bad parts are. So going in and having an explore, seeing where the train lines are, seeing where the shops are, seeing where the busy roads are, they can have a really big difference. You know, in some suburbs, just being in a certain school zone can add 10% to your price when you eventually go to sell, versus being outside of the school zone. So knowing little tips and tricks like that around a suburb, I think is actually really critical. And like I said, it can be the difference in your eventual sale price by about 10%.
Yeah, one of the things that I've mentioned a few times is to get out of your car and knock on the doors, the neighbours. Like if you're looking at one particular house, you think that's great, but just go 3 properties either side across the road, talk to people, because there's always at different times weird stuff that can be happening in streets, and you want to uncover that before you buy.
I completely agree. I mean, some people can get a little bit uncomfortable going and knocking on a door, but even perhaps going and speaking to the local cafe or speaking to the local restaurant or the local milk bar and having a really good conversation with them. People love to talk about where they live, so they'll be really open and honest and talk to you about the good and negative points about any place.
In the Palmerston market, which is really strong for the investor market, it's a satellite city of Darwin. That market has 50% listings from the same time last year. So this urgency that the buyers' agents have put in, we're seeing less properties on the market, and we're now starting to see the median house prices and properties increase in value.
Yeah, well, you had the lack of stock anyway. That's just exacerbated the problem for people wanting to get in there. In April alone, Darwin recorded the highest monthly price jump among Australian capitals. I didn't know this.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that on the ground here now, and anecdotally there are some suburbs which have jumped double digits over the past 6 to 8 months. Our unit market is starting to turn over again. We're not quite at that point where the sales prices can align to new construction, so we think there's probably some more run to go in that unit market as well, because there's not that new supply coming. We don't have tower cranes in the sky with lots of new development going on.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.